RedState.com. Please welcome Erick Erickson.
You know, one of my favorite movies is Tombstone, and they've got that great line, you tell them I'm coming and hell's coming with me. We need to look over at the Rio and tell them we're coming and heck's coming with us. And Angela, and Rubio, and Rand Paul, and people like King Buck and Pamela Gorman and other fighters for freedom across the country. We're coming, we're going to take over, and we're going to set the clock back. You know what? And I hate to break it to them, but let's be honest. When we set the clock back, we're going back past George W. Bush too. No more talk. No more auto bailouts. Let's not forget these are things Republicans gave us. We're at a point in this country where we have to stop looking at the letter next to someone's name when we decide who we're going to vote for. Country where we need to get involved in primaries and start beating up our own side. If we're not going to hold our side accountable, they're going to hold our side accountable. Brooms, sweep them out of office. There's a great Churchill quote. It is Gathering Storm about World War II. There's a great quote. I use it often. I'm going to use it again this morning. Some of you have heard me say it before. If you will not fight for the right when you can easily win without bloodshed, if you will not fight when your victory will be sure and not too costly, you may come to the moment when you will have to fight with all the odds against you and only a precarious chance of survival. There may even be a worse case. You may have to fight when there is no hope of victory, because it is better to perish than live as a slave. Great point. The left doesn't understand this. The left is so wrapped up in this idea that we should all be equal. The only way for us to be equal is for us to be slaves. For us to be slaves to government. And they think that's a good thing. They forget history. There's never been such a thing as equal people. We all start out equal. We all start out in the womb the same. But then we have to come to this country and experience freedom and know some of us are going to get ahead, some of us aren't. Some of us may have an obligation to those who can't get ahead for one reason or another. But the government should be holding us all back because some of us can't get ahead. And yet the government, the Democrats, even some Republicans, want to punish those who get ahead. Well, if they're going to start punishing everyone who gets ahead, no one's going to want to get ahead. And we're going to wind up not in the position we are, the last best hope for man, which we still remain, but not for long, unless we win come November. And so I want to encourage you to get beyond the protests. I've said this before and I'll say it again. The one thing I have, and I consider myself a Tea Party activist, but pay attention to this, please. These issues are not Tea Party issues. They're American issues. And when you say they're Tea Party issues, you got half the country that plugs their ears up. These aren't Tea Party issues, they're American issues. So it's time to put down the protest signs and time to pick up campaign signs. It's time to knock on doors. It's time to get out the vote. It's time to beat the Democrats. And it's time to beat the Republicans. So how do you beat them? Let's be realistic. In Washington, there are two parties. There are Democrats and there are Democrats light. Some of the Democrats light remember what it used to be like, and they are still Republicans. So now, I don't know about you, but I personally have more in common with the people who have the R next to their name. I'm actually one of them. And I just intend to embed myself within them and drive out all the people who I don't like. That's what the left's doing. You know, of course, when you get on TV only wants to talk about the civil war among the right. The right is beating each other up. Just the other day, some guy over across town was talking about how he was glad a lot of Democrats were going to be beaten. Yeah, I agree with him. It's just he wants more people on the left. I want more people on the right. But when you have the talking heads in Washington, all they want to talk about is finding common ground. I don't want to stand next to these people. I want to beat them. There isn't any common ground in this book. There's no common ground. You know, the reason we're having the fights we're having today is because the common ground, we found it all. There's none left. They want to destroy us. We want to build up this country. You know, I'm writing a book. One of the chapters is entitled Barack Obama's War with All Things Other Than the Enemy. I mean, you do not take over a sixth of the American economy unless you hate a sixth of the American economy. You do not take over another sixth of the American economy unless you hate that other sixth of the American economy. You do not take over another sixth of the American economy unless you don't like that. Then, well, that's half the economy. If you don't like half the American economy, there may be a lot more about this country you don't like. Personally, I love this country. And to make this country good, to restore the heart and soul of this country, to fight for freedom, Russia's right. They have to fail. That's the simple part of it. America wins when the Democrats lose. Abraham Lincoln, in 1862, I believe it was, traveled on horseback for 2 weeks from Springfield, Illinois to Kalamazoo, Michigan. He, like us, believed so strongly in a cause that he was willing to travel for 2 weeks by horseback to talk to 100 people. I don't know about you, but I'm not getting on a horse and riding for 2 weeks to speak to just 100 people. Well, 10,000 people showed up in Kalamazoo, Michigan to hear him. And nobody remembers what he said, except for one thing. He said, in our nation's infancy, which in 1862 it still kind of was, we had already become the envy of the world. Europeans, they came to study us, to see what made us great. He said he had figured out what it was. In this country, unlike any other on the face of the earth, every man can make himself. Think about that. In Georgia, my friend Karen Handel is running for governor. She didn't go to college. She didn't have that opportunity given hardship in her family. But she went to Washington and began working, and she became the chief of staff to Marilyn Quayle, the vice president's wife in the White House. She then went on to work after leaving the White House and eventually became the chairman of the Fulton County Commission in Georgia. She then became Secretary of State of Georgia. Now she's running for governor. Nikki Haley in South Carolina. Her family came from India. She began working for her father as a CPA when she was 10. She became an accountant when she was 10. Heck of a life. She's now the Republican gubernatorial nominee in South Carolina. In this country, every man and woman can make themselves, but not for long. And that's the reality we face. And it's not just Democrats, it's also Republicans. And so I encourage you, as we head out from here, remember, discern who the real enemy is, discern who the real friend is. Sometimes it's not who you think, sometimes it is who you think, but in all cases, remember, stand on the side of freedom and fight like hell come November. Thank you.